And slogging through Voyager Season 1, we finally arrive at Jetrel, which is finally, at least an interesting episode to talk about because of the allegory behind it. Even though at first Michael Piller said it's not an allegory, but later he also agreed it's an allegory. The story is basically Robert Oppenheimer meeting a Hiroshima or Nagasaki survivor and having a conversation with, Robert Oppenheimer having a conversation with an atomic bomb survivor. Which is, the basic idea behind this episode, and they did that in a Star Trek episode, following the Star Trek principle of that, in sci-fi, you can do things you couldn't do in normal television because, imagine you did like a television drama of, Robert Oppenheimer talking to a Hiroshima survivor, and, Joe Sixpack from the United States is like, what am I going to watch on TV today? Robert Oppenheimer talking to a Hiroshima survivor. That's going to really entertain me. No, that's not going to happen. But if you have like a spaceship with a weird alien talking to a weird alien, maybe Joe Sixpack is going to watch that. And yeah, that's how it basically works. So you have like the developer of a weapon of mass destruction talking to somebody who witnessed the result of that weapon of mass destruction, which I think they said in the episode killed 300,000 people. Basically turned an entire colony of Talaxians basically into goo. And, it's just like really weird to think about it. But generally, it's a weird subject, I was born in the early 80s, so I caught the tail end of the Cold War scare, and a lot of people nowadays don't know how fucking scary nuclear weapons are. The atomic bombs dropped on Japan, they are like basically tiny firecrackers compared to the thermonuclear bombs developed later. Now, if you think about like an atomic bomb, a thermonuclear bomb dropped on New York City, would probably burn your fucking eyes if you're in Washington DC, because they're fucking huge. They are fucking insanely huge and fucking destructive. Like when the Soviets tested the Tsar bomb, the biggest thermonuclear device ever tested on a remote island in the Arctic. It shattered windows in Finland 3,000 kilometers away. Like, you have to imagine the fucking destructive power of those fucking things. And I thought it was an appropriate analogy to have like a weapon that is dropped on a moon and just turns all living beings into goo. Like, it basically liquefied everybody who lived there. Well, not everybody. Like, Neelix went there later on, and he met survivors, but in the immediate several dozen kilometers, it liquefied everybody, and further than that, it just liquefied the outsides of them, like their skin and everything, and their eyes, and for Star Trek Voyager, it's actually pretty fucking grim. For such a fluffy show, it's some really fucking grim subject matter. And actually, it's some really fucking grim special effects, especially when the Doctor Jetrel, he later tries his experiments. That's some weird as fuck disturbing special effects that we haven't seen since Star Trek the Motion Picture with the transporter failure. I actually watched that as a kid because, Star Trek was basically something, generally something you could watch as a kid, and then that transporter accident in Star Trek the Motion Picture, that was fucking disturbing as a kid. Actually, I'm turning 40 this month, and I watched Star Trek the Motion Picture, the 4K remaster, recently. I still think it's fucking disturbing. That's like a really weird as fuck scene. And I'm a guy like in a Night of the Living Dead shirt. Watch a lot of horror and splatter stuff. That's really fucking disturbing scene. Seriously. With the weird distorted figures screaming. That's messed up, especially for Star Trek. That's some messed up stuff. And it's like, also in this Voyager episode when Jetrel does his experiment to reconstitute something he destroys. That's some weird, disturbing stuff for Star Trek. And unfortunately, that's also the part where we get to the point that this episode isn't great because it completely loses the plot on the analogy later on when they get into he killed like hundreds of thousands of people, but he didn't actually kill them. There's a way he can bring them all back to life, and as I describe it, you think how stupid that sounds, and it sounds exactly that stupid in the episode. It's just, it completely ruins the plot. Like, it robs the plot of its impact. Like, we have a witness of an extremely insane weapon of mass destruction facing off against the inventor of the insanely destructive weapon of mass destruction. And then they completely fuck it up by those people weren't killed. They can all be brought back in theory. That just completely robs the episode of its urgency, of its impact, of its meaning, literally. Like, it robs the episode, it robs the dialogue, the interplay between the two characters, it robs it of its meaning. Like, if you go back to the original premise of, Robert Oppenheimer talking to a Hiroshima survivor, and then at one point Robert Oppenheimer suddenly says, "But I have a magic plot device. Everybody who died in Hiroshima, theory, they could all be alive again." And then the survivor says, okay, do that. That would be nice. But then the drama of the exchange is supposed to be coming from, this guy is responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of people. That's the point of the drama. And the survivor is in a position that he's so angry, so full of hate, but he cannot do anything to change reality because the dead are dead. That's the point of the drama, that the survivor, as an accuser, no matter what he does, he cannot bring back the dead, which eats the survivor up from the inside. That he has the responsible person in his hands, but no matter what he does, he cannot bring back the dead. That is supposed to be the source of the drama. Like, you're the survivor of Hiroshima or Nagasaki, and you have Robert Oppenheimer in your hands. No matter what the fuck you do with him, you cannot bring back the dead. So no matter what you do, it might make you feel good for like a second, but you cannot bring back the dead. That's supposed to be the source of the drama behind that exchange. So that whole plot point later on in this episode, like there's some magic way to theoretically bring back the dead. It completely ruins the interplay between the characters. I don't know what the fuck the writers were thinking. This is another point where I have to go on Memory Alpha to check who the fuck was responsible. I checked on Memory Alpha and somehow I stopped the video while doing it. I don't know how. That's annoying. The writers of this episode just wrote this episode and nothing else. And I'm trying to get back into my previous point. I didn't intend to destroy my video. I will have to edit these two separate recordings together, which is fucking annoying. But somehow when I switched the tab to, the browser to check Memory Alpha, I ruined this video. That's fucking annoying. But yeah. This episode has an interesting idea. Like a really interesting idea to begin with, and it works really well for most of the episode. And then goes into that really weird, nonsensical plot point about bringing back the dead. It also had that little side plot about Neelix being dishonest about being a defender of his planet when in reality he was a draft dodger, which doesn't actually fucking matter to the plot in any fucking way, which was just another waste the writers did. Like, there are a lot of things about this episode the writers didn't think through. One thing was, the previously mentioned bringing back the dead, and the other was that really unnecessary side plot about the role of Neelix in the war. It didn't fucking matter what role. Like, if you again go back to the original plot point of Neelix being a witness to the atomic bombing of Hiroshima or Nagasaki, and meeting Robert Oppenheimer, what the fuck does it matter if he was like some farmer in Japan or if he was like in the Japanese army? If he witnessed what the atomic bombs did, the story is exactly the same. It's completely fucking meaningless what he did while the attack was happening. It's the result that causes the conflict between Neelix and Jetrel, because, the family of Neelix was on that moon. It doesn't make a fucking difference what Neelix was doing, so that was a fucking waste of time, that side plot. Like I said, the writers didn't really think this entirely through, and especially towards the end, it really fucking loses the plot and just gets really fucking stupid. So, it's an interesting episode. The basic idea is pretty good. The overall execution is diminished by too much nonsense that the writers didn't think through. But generally, the idea is good. And of course, the acting by both main actors, Ethan Phillips and James Loyan, who is a regular recurring actor on Star Trek. Both of them are amazing, and they really carried this episode with their acting performance. And if the plot didn't end on so many weird, stupid ideas, and instead carried on with the original premise, it could have been an absolute classic. Instead, it became an episode that is interesting but not particularly great. But, yeah, interesting is good. It's, yeah, probably the best of Voyager Season 1, which is not saying much, but it's the best of Voyager Season 1.